I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who gets cheated on, blindsided by betrayal while I was serving my country. My name is Jake, and I've been married to my wife, Emily, for 6 years. We met in college, fell in love fast, and seemed like the perfect couple. But everything started to unravel when I was deployed overseas and she stayed home. I thought distance would strengthen our bond, but I guess I was wrong. There were signs, of course. At first, they were subtle. Emily seemed more preoccupied with her phone than usual. I'd catch her giggling at something on the screen and I'd brush it off as harmless. The late-night FaceTime calls were supposed to be our lifeline, keeping us connected despite the miles, but something felt off. I began to notice how she wouldn't let me see her screen. Whenever I'd ask about the calls, her responses were vague and she'd always deflect. "Oh, just talking to friends," she'd say casually, a slight smile on her lips. But deep down, I felt a gnawing sensation that something wasn't right. One evening, after a long day of training, I decided to take a break from the stress. I was scrolling through my phone while lying in my bunk when a notification popped up from one of our mutual friends, Mike. He was also deployed with me, and we often shared the ups and downs of military life. Out of habit, I opened it. The message was about how he'd seen Emily hanging out with another guy in our neighborhood. I was taken aback. Why would she be hanging out with someone else while I was away? When I confronted Mike later that week, he told me he saw Emily with a friend, someone he described as a little too close for comfort. My heart sank. I had to know more, so I did what any husband would do. I started digging. I pulled up our shared Google Photos account. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for, but I needed something to confirm my suspicions. And then I found it. There were photos from a week earlier, a time when I was deployed, of her in our bedroom, looking cozy with someone I had never met. The timestamp showed she was video calling him while wearing my favorite t-shirt. The betrayal hit me like a brick wall. I felt sick to my stomach and I couldn't breathe. I had trusted her with everything, and here she was, laughing and having what looked like a good time with someone else. I didn't feel anger immediately, I was just numb. I stared at the screen, the laughter echoing in my ears. I wanted to scream but found myself frozen in disbelief. That night I called Mike again. I had to know more about this friend. That's when he revealed it. It was my military buddy, Dean. The very guy I'd shared my fears and dreams with, trusting him with the details of my life. The thought of him betraying me along with her made me see red. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I had shared everything with Dean, and he had the audacity to invade my home, my sanctuary, while I was fighting for our country. The next day, I confronted Emily. I was back on base, pacing my small room, replaying the confrontation in my head. When she walked in, her demeanor was casual. I couldn't believe her nonchalance. I wasted no time, I launched right into it. "Who the hell is Dean?" I demanded. Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought she might deny it. But instead she said, "Oh, come on, Jake. You make it sound worse than it is. We were just talking." Just talking. Those two words cut deeper than any knife. I pressed her for the truth, and she spun a web of lies, trying to convince me it was no big deal. "You're always away. I needed someone to talk to," she said, trying to sound innocent. As I listened, I felt the rage boiling inside me. How could she be so selfish? I had sacrificed so much for us, and she was here betraying me with someone I called a brother. "I can't believe you," I said, my voice low and shaking. "You were video calling him from our bedroom." The disbelief in her eyes quickly shifted to anger. "You're overreacting. You're not here. You don't get to dictate who I talk to." I was at a loss for words. She deflected every accusation, twisting my pain into guilt. It was infuriating. I realized that this woman, the one I had loved so fiercely, was not the person I thought she was. And just like that, everything began to change. The love I thought would last forever was crumbling. I felt the emotional impact of her betrayal flood in. The initial shock morphed into anger, then sadness as I processed what was happening. How could she do this to me? I had given her my heart, my trust, and she had thrown it all away. That's when I started thinking about my options. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit around and let this happen to me. I had to find a way to regain my honor and dignity, even if it meant letting her go. I decided that I'd send her divorce papers. She needed to know there would be consequences for her actions. Looking back now, I realized that was only the beginning. The emotional journey was far from over. I was just starting to unravel the depth of my feelings and the full scope of what had happened. I needed to take control, reclaim my life, and reconnect with the brotherhood I had forged in the military. The days following my confrontation with Emily were a blur of emotions. I was stuck in this haze of disbelief and anger, grappling with the betrayal that had shattered my world. I couldn't focus on anything. Training drills felt pointless, and the camaraderie I once cherished with my fellow soldiers was now a reminder of the betrayal lurking back home. I distanced myself from the guys, a deliberate choice to avoid their laughter and camaraderie, which I couldn't bear to witness in my fragile state. Instead, I spent my nights replaying the confrontation in my head, analyzing every word that had been said and wondering if there was something I could have done differently. The truth was, I felt powerless and it frustrated me. I decided to call Mike and share everything that happened. It was a gamble, but I needed someone to confide in, someone who could possibly provide clarity. I dialed his number, my pulse quickening as I imagined his reaction. When he answered, I jumped straight into it. "Mike, I need to talk to you. It's about Emily." There was a pause on the other end, and then he sighed. "Jake, I didn't want to bring this up, but I had a feeling something was off. What's going on?" I told him everything, the photos, the video calls, the betrayal, in a rush of words. I could hear his intake of breath on the other end, a sign that the realization had hit him hard. "I can't believe this, man. I'm sorry," he said, his voice heavy with remorse. "I had no idea it went that far. I thought they were just friends." "Friends," I spat back. "That's the excuse she gave me, too. She said I was overreacting, that she just needed someone to talk to while I was away. It's disgusting." "Listen, Jake, I'm here for you. Whatever you need, just say the word, but I want you to think about what you're doing. There are a lot of emotions at play here," Mike said carefully. He was right. My emotions were a roller coaster and I was struggling to keep my seat. I had spent years building my life with Emily and now it felt like it was all crumbling. But I knew that I had to take action. I had to show her that her actions had consequences. That night, I sat down to draft the divorce papers. The words felt foreign as I typed them. It was a surreal experience to outline everything we had built together only to dismantle it in a single document. I couldn't stop picturing the moments we shared, the laughter, the intimate moments, the dreams we constructed together. Each memory felt like a blade piercing my heart, but deep down, I realized that those memories were tainted now. They were overshadowed by the betrayal that had unfolded. I finalized the paperwork and made arrangements to have them served to her. Felt like the right move, but there was a lingering doubt. Was I making a mistake? Would I regret it? I suppressed those thoughts, reminding myself that I deserved better than to be a pawn in her game. Once the papers were served, I braced myself for the fallout. Emily's reaction was as expected, furious, hurt, and defiant. She called me, her voice a mix of anger and desperation, demanding to know why I was doing this. "You can't just throw away everything we had because of one mistake," she shouted. "One mistake. Emily, it was more than that. It's not just about the video calls, it's everything you did behind my back. You broke the trust that held us together, and I can't be with someone who thinks that's okay," I replied, trying to maintain my composure despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. "You don't understand. I was lonely. You were gone." Her excuses felt hollow, and I realized that this was a pattern of behavior, one that would likely continue if I let it. I hung up the phone, my heart pounding. Despite the chaos in my mind, I felt a strange sense of relief. I was taking action, reclaiming my power and removing myself from a toxic situation. But with that relief came a wave of loneliness. I was still adjusting to the idea of being without her. I had shared my life with Emily, and even now, it felt unsettling to think about moving on. I knew it would take time to heal, but I also recognized that I couldn't dwell on the past. I needed to focus on rebuilding my life and reconnecting with the brotherhood I had missed so much. I started reaching out to my military friends again, sharing my experiences and seeking their support. It was comforting to know that I wasn't alone in this. They understood honor and loyalty, traits I thought I shared with Emily, until the truth surfaced. My buddy Tom invited me to a weekend camping trip with some of the guys. I hesitated at first, unsure if I was ready to immerse myself in their laughter and camaraderie. But I realized that I needed this, to reconnect with the brotherhood that had always been my anchor. As I packed my gear, I felt a sense of determination wash over me. I was ready to forge a new path, one that didn't include the betrayal that had haunted me. I was going to this trip not just to escape, but to rebuild myself, to remember what it meant to be part of something greater than just my past relationship. When the weekend came, I found myself surrounded by friends who had my back. We hiked, fished, and shared stories around the campfire late into the night. The bonds we forged during our service were stronger than I had ever realized. Their support was invaluable, each laugh a reminder that life could still be good. I found comfort in their understanding, knowing they had been through their share of tough times too. As we sat around the fire, I shared my story. The guys listened, their faces a mix of sympathy and anger on my behalf. They offered advice, their voices steady and reassuring, reminding me of the strength I had within me. It felt good to open up, to share the burden I had been carrying alone for so long. "Don't let her define you, man," Tom said as we stared into the flames. "You've got a whole life ahead of you. You're better than this." His words lingered with me. I had been given a second chance, a way to reclaim my life. I decided right then and there that I would not let Emily's betrayal control me. I was going to rise from the ashes of this heartbreak, stronger and more determined than ever. It was time for me to create a new chapter, one where I focused on my own happiness, surrounded by those who understood honor and loyalty. The brotherhood that excluded betrayal would be my foundation, and I was ready to rebuild from there. The camping trip proved to be a turning point for me. Being surrounded by my brothers in arms helped me regain some clarity amidst the chaos of my emotions. I returned to base with a new sense of purpose. I realized that I had spent too long letting Emily's betrayal consume me. It was time to take control of my narrative. As I adjusted to life back at base, I found myself thinking more about what I wanted for the future. I'd been lost in the fog of betrayal for too long, and I needed to refocus on my goals, both personally and professionally. I started to hit the gym hard, channeling my anger and frustration into my workouts. Each drop of sweat felt like a step away from the pain Emily had caused. I was reclaiming my body and my mind. During those workouts, I also made it a point to reconnect with people who mattered. While the military camaraderie was vital, I also wanted to nurture friendships outside of that circle. I reached out to old college friends, those I hadn't spoken to in years. I needed to remind myself of the life I had before Emily, the life full of laughter and freedom. One evening, I met up with an old college buddy, Ryan. We grabbed a drink at a local bar, and it felt good to be in a relaxed setting, reminiscing about the carefree days of our youth. As we caught up, I opened up about everything that had happened with Emily. "Man, I can't believe she cheated on you with Dean. That's just low," Ryan said, shaking his head. "You deserve so much better than that." "Yeah, it really hits hard," I admitted, swirling my drink. "I thought I knew her, but I guess I didn't." "Look, you're a good guy, Jake. You've got a lot going for you. Don't let her drag you down," he encouraged. His words resonated with me, sparking something inside. I realized that I didn't just want to move on, I wanted to thrive. I'd been so focused on healing from the betrayal that I hadn't given myself the space to think about what I truly wanted. That's when I made a decision. I wanted to travel again. I had always dreamed of backpacking through Europe, a trip I had shelved because of Emily. I'd had visions of us exploring quaint villages and soaking in the culture together, but now those dreams felt tainted. I needed to create new memories, ones that were entirely mine, free from the shadows of her betrayal. I started planning my trip. I researched destinations, created itineraries, and saved money. It became an exciting project that helped me channel my energy into something positive. I envisioned myself wandering through the streets of Paris, tasting local delicacies, and marveling at ancient architecture. I could see vibrant sunsets over the Mediterranean Sea and feel the thrill of adventure coursing through me. As my departure day approached, I felt a mix of excitement and nerves. It was a leap into the unknown, a chance to embrace life on my own terms. I was finally breaking free from the chains of the past, and the idea of traveling solo thrilled me. I'd become my own person again, and that was liberating. The day I landed in Europe was surreal. The air felt different, charged with promise. I spent my first week in Paris, wandering along the Seine and visiting iconic landmarks like the Eiffel Tower and the Louvre. I basked in the freedom and independence that came with traveling alone, enjoying my own company for the first time in a while. I snapped photos, savored exquisite pastries, and struck up conversations with locals. Each moment felt like a breath of fresh air. As I explored, I reflected on my journey. I realized that the betrayal had not just stripped me of my marriage, it had also opened up a path for self-discovery. I was learning who I was outside of my relationship with Emily. I was reclaiming my identity, one step at a time. But the road to healing wasn't always smooth. There were moments of loneliness, especially during the evenings when I would sit at a cafe watching couples share intimate moments. It was a reminder of what I had lost, and some nights, the weight of those memories felt heavy. I'd pull out my journal, pouring my heart onto the pages, sorting through my feelings and fears. Writing became a therapeutic practice, helping me articulate my journey and process the complexities of my emotions. As the trip progressed, I made a pact with myself. I would not dwell on the past. I'd acknowledge the pain, but I wouldn't let it define me. I was determined to embrace every moment fully, to immerse myself in the experiences and to allow joy back into my life. After a few weeks in Europe, I found myself in Italy, wandering through the streets of Florence. The rich history and breathtaking art overwhelmed my senses, and for the first time in months I felt truly alive. I hiked up to Piazzale Michelangelo, where the view over the city took my breath away. Standing there, gazing at the golden light of sunset, I realized something profound. I was no longer the heartbroken man who had been betrayed. I was a survivor, a warrior, and I had emerged stronger than I had ever been. That evening, as I returned to my hotel, I made a mental note to reach out to Mike and Tom. They had been supportive during my darkest hours, and I needed to share how far I had come. I wanted to tell them about my journey of self-discovery and how I had found peace in the chaos. I drafted a message to them, sharing snippets of my adventures and expressing gratitude for their unwavering support. I wanted them to know that their friendship had played a vital role in my healing process. As I clicked send, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I was done with the baggage of the past. I was stepping into my future with open arms. I had learned that life could be beautiful again, that I could find happiness even after heartbreak. The road ahead might still hold challenges, but I was ready to face them head-on. I was no longer just reacting to the betrayal. I was actively creating a life I wanted to live. And in that moment, standing under the Tuscan sky, I felt a profound sense of hope. I was rewriting my story, and the next chapters promised to be full of adventure and new beginnings. As my time in Europe began to wind down, I felt a bittersweet mix of emotions. Each new city, each new experience had transformed me, and I was no longer the lost soul who had boarded the plane. I was proud of how far I had come, but the thought of returning home filled me with a sense of apprehension. Would I be able to hold onto this newfound strength once I was back in the reality I had left behind? By the time I returned to the States, I felt like a different person. I had memories etched in my mind, like the sun setting over the Amalfi Coast and the sounds of laughter in local markets. I had gained a deeper understanding of who I was and what I wanted. I had also learned that I didn't need a partner to define my happiness. I could be whole on my own. The first few days back at base were disorienting. Familiar faces greeted me, but everything felt a little different, like I was seeing it all through a new lens. I was determined to keep the momentum going, to not slip back into the despair I had felt before my trip. I reached out to my military buddies, making plans to hang out and reconnect. I needed the support of my brothers again. One weekend, I went out for drinks with Mike and Tom. The bar was buzzing with energy as laughter echoed off the walls. It felt good to catch up, to share stories and reflect on our time apart. I told them about my travels, the experiences I had shared, and how liberating it felt to embrace my independence. They seemed genuinely happy for me, and their encouragement bolstered my confidence. "Man, you really found yourself out there," Mike said, raising his glass. "Here to new beginnings." We clinked our glasses together, and for the first time in a while I felt a sense of belonging wash over me. This was my brotherhood, the foundation I hadn't realized I had missed so much. We laughed, shared jokes, and reminisced about old times, but I also noticed a shift in our conversations. It wasn't just about the past, it was about the future. As we talked, I felt a stirring inside me, a desire to push forward and embrace the opportunities that lay ahead. I shared my plan to enroll in courses, perhaps even pursue a degree once I returned to civilian life. I wanted to explore new passions, to find a new purpose beyond the military. Tom nodded approvingly. "You've got the right idea, Jake. Life is too short to hang on to what doesn't serve you. Go after what you want." Their support fueled my determination. I started to map out my next steps, setting goals for myself beyond the military. I wanted to grow, to engage with the world in ways I never had. I envisioned myself taking art classes, volunteering, and perhaps even exploring new career paths. I wanted to make the most of my life, to honor the lessons I had learned through the pain. As the weeks went by, I focused on my personal growth. I enrolled in a community college course on creative writing, wanting to explore my passion for storytelling. Writing had become a refuge during my travels. It helped me process my emotions and reflect on my experiences. I wanted to harness that power and use it to inspire others. But even amidst my newfound enthusiasm, I couldn't entirely escape the shadows of my past. Every now and then, thoughts of Emily would creep back in, reminders of the pain, the betrayal, and the loss of what could have been. I found myself grappling with those feelings, trying to find closure. One day, as I was journaling, I decided it was time to confront those lingering emotions. I wrote a letter to Emily, not one I intended to send, but rather an exercise in catharsis. I poured my heart out, detailing the pain she had caused, how deeply her betrayal had cut, and the lessons I had learned from the experience. I wrote about the journey of self-discovery I had embarked upon, how I had reclaimed my identity and what I hoped for my future. As I penned the last words, a sense of release washed over me. It felt like I was finally letting go of the weight I had been carrying. I could acknowledge the hurt without allowing it to define me. I folded the letter and tucked it away, a symbolic gesture of closure. I didn't need to send it. I had already moved on. With that emotional burden lifted, I found myself more present in my new life. I was diving into my writing, exploring different genres and honing my skills. I even joined a local writers group, connecting with other aspiring authors who shared their stories and offered constructive feedback. It felt good to be part of a community again, to share and grow together. Over time, as I built these new relationships, I began to feel a sense of belonging that had been missing for so long. I started making new friends, people who didn't know my past, who only saw me for who I was now. I found joy in their company and began to embrace the idea that I could forge new connections without the shadows of betrayal hanging over me. That's when I met Sarah at a local cafe during one of our writers' group meetings. She had a vibrant energy about her, a passion for storytelling that mirrored my own. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself drawn to her positivity. We exchanged numbers, and soon after, we started meeting up for coffee and writing sessions. As we spent time together, I felt a spark I hadn't experienced since my relationship with Emily. It was exhilarating yet terrifying. I was still wary of diving into a new relationship, afraid of getting hurt again. But Sarah was patient and understanding, and she never pressured me. One evening, after a particularly engaging writing session, we decided to take a walk along the waterfront. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden hue over everything. I found myself opening up to her about my past, about the pain and betrayal I had endured. To my surprise, she listened intently, validating my feelings without judgment. "Jake, it's clear that you've grown so much from this experience," she said softly. You're not defined by your past. You've taken the pain and turned it into something beautiful. That takes strength. Her words struck a chord within me. I felt a rush of gratitude for her understanding and compassion. And as we stood there watching the sun dip below the horizon, I realized that I was ready to embrace new possibilities. I could allow myself to be vulnerable again. From that moment on, I took a leap of faith. I started dating Sarah, allowing myself to explore this new connection without the baggage of my past weighing me down. With her, I felt like I was beginning to heal in a way I hadn't thought possible. Each moment we spent together was a reminder that love could exist beyond betrayal, that trust could be rebuilt. As I navigated this new chapter of my life, I felt myself blossoming. The emotional journey wasn't over, but it was evolving. I had learned to embrace the lessons of the past without letting them dictate my future. I was carving out a life that was uniquely mine, filled with new friendships, new passions, and the potential for love. I had risen from the ashes of betrayal, transformed into someone who was stronger, more resilient, and ready to face whatever came my way. I was no longer just a victim of circumstance. I was a survivor, and I was determined to embrace the beautiful unpredictability of life. As I settled into this new chapter with Sarah, I felt a sense of peace that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Our relationship blossomed slowly but surely, defined by open communication and a mutual understanding of our pasts. We shared our dreams and fears, and with Sarah, I felt safe enough to let my guard down. One evening, as we sat in a cozy cafe, sipping lattes and discussing our latest writing projects, Sarah glanced up from her notebook and said, "You know, I admire how you've turned your experiences into fuel for creativity. It's inspiring." Her words warmed my heart. I had poured myself into my writing, using it as an outlet for the emotions I had been bottling up for so long. I had started writing a novel, a story rooted in my own experiences but transformed into fiction. It became a therapeutic exercise, allowing me to reshape the narrative and explore the complexities of relationships. I appreciate that, Sarah. Writing has been my way of processing everything, I admitted, feeling a mix of vulnerability and pride. It helped me regain my identity after everything that happened. She leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with interest. "What's your story about?" I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I wanted to share the details. It felt deeply personal, but this was Sarah, and I had already shared so much with her. I took a deep breath and began to explain the premise, a tale of love, betrayal, and ultimately, redemption. I described the main character's journey of self-discovery and healing after infidelity, and how he learns to embrace his own strength. "That sounds incredible," Sarah said, her excitement palpable. "You should be proud of what you're creating. It's a powerful message." Her encouragement reignited a fire within me. I spent the next few weeks dedicating myself to my writing, fueled by the support of friends and the budding relationship with Sarah. I found inspiration in our time together, often incorporating elements from our shared experiences into my story. It felt empowering to take control of my narrative, to craft a tale that mirrored my journey while allowing me to explore the emotional depths of love and betrayal. However, as my writing progressed, I found myself grappling with some unresolved feelings regarding Emily. It was as if her shadow still lingered on the edges of my consciousness. I realized that while I had made significant strides in moving on, there were still pieces of my past that needed closure. I needed to confront the emotions I had kept at bay in order to fully embrace my future with Sarah. One night, I decided to call Emily. I had avoided contacting her since serving the divorce papers, but I felt compelled to address what had happened. It was a decision that surprised even me, but I knew it was necessary. I needed to let her know how her actions had impacted me, not to rekindle anything, but to find my own sense of closure. When she answered, there was an awkward silence before she spoke. "Jake, I didn't expect to hear from you." "I know," I replied, my voice steady, "but I think it's time we talked. I need to say some things." We agreed to meet at a local park, a neutral space where we could speak openly. As I arrived, I felt a surge of nerves wash over me. This was the woman who had shattered my trust, the person whose actions had propelled me into a transformative journey. I was about to confront the very essence of my pain. When Emily arrived, she looked different, older perhaps. There was a weariness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. We exchanged pleasantries before sitting on a bench, the weight of the conversation hanging between us. "I wanted to talk because I think I need to put some things to rest," I began, choosing my words carefully. "Your actions hurt me deeply. I never thought I would be that guy betrayed by someone I loved so fiercely." She looked down and I could see the guilt wash across her face. "I'm sorry for what I did, Jake. I really am. I was lost and made terrible choices." "Your choices had consequences, Emily," I continued, my voice firm. "I spent months spiraling through pain, confusion, and anger. I lost myself in the process, but I've found my way back and I'm stronger for it." I watched her reaction closely. There was a flicker of regret in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. I made mistakes, and I wish I could take them back." "Wishing doesn't change the past," I replied, feeling a mix of empathy and resolve. "But I'm not here to dwell on that. I just needed you to know how profoundly your actions affected me." The conversation drifted into uncomfortable territory as I shared how her betrayal had sparked my journey of self-discovery. I told her about my travels, my writing, and how I had finally found peace within myself. I could see the realization dawning on her face. She understood that I had moved on. "Are you happy?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I am," I replied honestly. "I've learned to embrace life on my terms. I'm writing again and I've met someone special. Sarah has been a source of light in my life." "Sarah?" Emily asked, her expression shifting. "I'm glad you found someone. You deserve to be happy." That moment marked a turning point for me. I felt a sense of closure wash over me, knowing I had confronted my past and emerged stronger. I could finally let go of the burden I had carried for so long. As we wrapped up our conversation, I realized that I didn't need her forgiveness. I needed my own. I had taken the steps to heal and grow, and I was no longer defined by her betrayal. I stood up, feeling lighter, a weight lifted off my shoulders. "Take care, Emily," I said, meeting her gaze one last time. "I hope you find your way too." The walk back to my car felt like a victory lap. I had faced the demons of my past and emerged intact. I was ready to embrace the future, to build a life filled with meaningful relationships, creativity, and love. When I returned home, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I poured my energy back into my writing, determined to finish my novel. I was no longer just rewriting my story. I was creating a narrative that celebrated resilience and growth. As the weeks passed, my relationship with Sarah continued to flourish. We found joy in our shared passions, encouraging each other to pursue our dreams. I felt a sense of companionship that was built on trust, understanding, and respect. For the first time in a long while, I felt safe in a relationship, free from the shadows of the past. In the final weeks of writing my novel, I incorporated everything I had learned throughout my journey: the pain, the betrayal, and the strength that had emerged from it. Each word flowed from my fingertips, a cathartic release that solidified my healing process. When I finally typed the last sentence, I sat back and let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. This was more than just a story. It was a testament to my journey, a celebration of resilience. I was proud of what I had created, and I knew it would resonate with others who had faced similar struggles. At that moment, I realized that the journey wasn't just about conquering betrayal. It was about embracing life's unpredictability. I had faced heartache, but I had also found joy, creativity, and the courage to love again. It was a journey worth taking, and I was grateful for every step along the way. As I looked forward to the future, I felt a sense of hope and excitement. I was ready to share my story, to inspire others, and to continue building a life filled with love, laughter, and unwavering support from those who truly understood the value of loyalty. I had emerged not just as a survivor, but as a thriving individual who was finally living life on his own terms. With the manuscript of my novel completed, I felt a sense of accomplishment wash over me. I had poured my heart into those pages, transforming my pain into something tangible and meaningful. The story was not just about betrayal. It was about healing, resilience, and the power of self-discovery. I knew I wanted to share it with the world, to let others know that they could emerge from heartache and find joy again. As I began the process of querying literary agents, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The publishing world was daunting, but I was determined to see this project through. I had spent months crafting my narrative, and I believed in its message. It was a testament to my journey, and if it could resonate with even a handful of readers, it would be worth it. In the meantime, my relationship with Sarah continued to deepen. We supported each other in our creative pursuits, often exchanging ideas and feedback on our respective projects. I appreciated her for many reasons, but mostly for the way she encouraged me to embrace my vulnerability. She understood the importance of my past without letting it define us. One evening, as we sat on the couch, sharing a bottle of wine and talking about our dreams, I felt compelled to express how much she meant to me. Sarah, I've been through a lot over the past year, and I just want you to know how grateful I am for you. You've helped me heal in ways I didn't think were possible. She smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. I'm just glad I could be here for you. You deserve happiness, Jake. Her words struck a chord within me. I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the journey I had taken and how it had brought me to this moment. I leaned in and kissed her, savoring the connection we had forged. It was a reminder that love could flourish even after betrayal, that it was possible to build something beautiful out of the ashes. As I sent out queries for my book, I received mixed responses, some rejections, some requests for full manuscripts. Each time I got a rejection, I allowed myself a moment of disappointment, but I didn't let it derail me. Instead, I saw it as part of the journey. Each no was just one more step toward the eventual yes. I had learned the importance of perseverance, and I had no intention of giving up. During this time, I also continued to engage with my writing community. I attended workshops and local author events, eager to learn from others and expand my network. I found solace in these gatherings, sharing stories with fellow writers who understood the struggles and triumphs of the creative process. One afternoon, I received an email that changed everything. An agent was interested in my manuscript and wanted to set up a call. My heart raced as I read the email, a rush of excitement flooding through me. I had worked so hard for this moment, and it felt surreal to have someone believe in my story. When the call came, I was nervous but eager. The agent spoke passionately about my writing and the themes I explored. I believe this book has the potential to resonate with a wide audience. It's raw, honest, and relatable, she said. Her words felt like a validation of my journey, a sign that all my hard work hadn't gone unnoticed. By the end of the call, she offered to represent me, and I could hardly contain my excitement. I had taken a leap of faith, and it had paid off. I was on the cusp of bringing my story to life, and I couldn't wait to see where this new path would take me. As the months unfolded, I worked closely with my agent to polish the manuscript. Together, we navigated the intricacies of the publishing world, and I began to understand the complexities of marketing and promoting a book. It was a steep learning curve, but I was committed to making my vision a reality. Alongside my writing journey, my relationship with Sarah blossomed. We traveled together, exploring new places and creating beautiful memories. Each adventure deepened our bond, and I found myself falling for her more with each passing day. She was my partner, my confidant, and a source of inspiration. One evening, as we watched the sunset from a hilltop overlooking the city, I turned to her and took a deep breath. Sarah, I know we've only been together for a short time, but I've never felt so connected to someone before. You've changed my life in ways I can't describe. She looked at me, her expression a mix of surprise and warmth. Jake, I feel the same way. I never thought I could find someone who truly understood me, but with you, everything feels right. In that moment, I realized I wanted to take our relationship to the next level. I had come so far since the days of heartbreak, and now I was ready to embrace love fully. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I reached for her hand and said, I want to build a future with you, Sarah. I love you. Her smile lit up the fading light. I love you too, Jake. With those words, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. I was no longer haunted by the betrayal of the past. I had forged a new path filled with love and hope. I was ready to embrace the future, to face whatever challenges lay ahead alongside Sarah. The day I received the call that my manuscript had been accepted for publication was surreal. I was overwhelmed with emotions, excitement, disbelief, and gratitude. I had poured my heart into this work, and now it was going to be shared with the world. As I celebrated with Sarah, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. I had learned that life could be unpredictable, but it was also filled with possibilities. I had faced betrayal and emerged stronger, discovering my own resilience along the way. I had rebuilt my life from the ground up, surrounded by supportive friends and a love that felt genuine and true. As I reflected on my journey, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had learned to let go of the past and embrace the present. I was ready to share my story, not just through my writing but also through my life. Each chapter of my journey had shaped me, and I was excited to see what the future held. Together with Sarah, I was ready to write the next chapter, filled with new adventures, love, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Life was beautiful, and I was finally living it to the fullest.